Hey guys, turkey season is in full swing right now, and if you are planning on getting after it, make sure to pick up some Meat Eater Phelps turkey calls to stuff into the old turkey vest or into your fanny pack right now. I carry a few different things. I like to use mouth calls, and I like to use pot calls. Mouth calls or diaphragms, I like them because it gives you hand-free calling, meaning when you're working a bird up close, you can have your gun on your knee, finger on the trigger, ready to roll, and still be making turkey sounds. I like pot calls because I just like pot calls. I enjoy calling with a pot call. Whatever direction you go, including a box call, which I don't personally use too much, but they're fun and great, and I started out with them. Yanni, on the other hand, one of my main turkey hunting buddies, he loves box calls. And what's funny is I'll now and then look to him and give him the look that means get out your box call and find us a turkey. So it's not that I don't like him. I just have Yanni use his. Then I don't have to carry it. Go to Phelps Game Calls. Get calls that are made in the USA and get calls that'll get them close. Find yours at phelpsgamecalls.com today.
You're listening to the Sportsman's Nation Podcast Network, brought to you by Go Wild. Now, the Go Wild app has added some really cool and exciting functionality to their app, and the first one I want to talk about is the Near Me function. And basically what this does, it allows you to engage and connect with people in your area. You guys can talk about gear, you guys can talk about hunting areas, you guys can talk about what's going on in the woods, and it just allows the users to be more of a community and connect easier. The second part is the Gearbox, and what the Gearbox is, it is an opportunity for the users to not only see reviews on products and see what the Go Wild community is using in the field, what products they're using, but it also allows you guys to purchase up to 150,000 products. There's a shopping function on it. So check out the Go Wild app. If you haven't downloaded it to your phone yet, you need to, and you can do that at any app store that is currently available. Go Wild. It's an awesome app. Check them out.
My name is Clay Newcomb, and I'm the host of the Bear Hunting Magazine podcast. I'll also be your host into the world of hunting the icon of North American wilderness, the bear. We'll talk about tactics, gear, conservation, but we'll also bring you into some of the wildest country on the planet, chasing bear. Colby and I spent the week in Washington State with Buddy Woodberry and part of the time with Jason Duby of W Hunting Supply. We went up there on a bear hunt. We hunted some big country for 3.5 days out there, and you'll hear more about that later. But we spent a good bit of time at W getting to know more about these guys and what they do. In this podcast, we get to hear more of Buddy's story. We talk hounds, we talk equipment, and we just have an overall great conversation with Buddy and Jason. You're going to enjoy this. We are in the Cascade Mountains of Southwest Washington. We're not at the global headquarters today.
No, long way from it.
No global headquarters. Colby and I are up here with Buddy Woodberry and Jason Duby, W Hound Supply. And, Southwest Washington is not just W Hound Supply. It's where you live. You guys are from here.
Yeah, not Yakima, like you said the first time.
When I first is there a Yakima, Washington?
There is. Yeah, okay. A ways away from.
Just looked at the weather there.
Yeah, you know what?
It's hotter there.
So a while back, on a ad for W, I said they're from Yakima, Washington. That has spun all the way into the planning for us to be here, because as we're going to tell people in a minute, we're on a hunt in Southwest Washington. And I told Colby where we were going, he looked up the weather for Yakima, Washington, which was very different from Yakult,
it was warmer.
Close to where we're at. We're not in Yakult now.
You're correct.
But no, you guys are now, buddy. You grew up here.
No, I was actually born in Colorado Springs.
When did you move to Washington?
I think I was my first year I hunted. I was 14, I think, in Colorado. I'd hunt with my dad, and I didn't have my own license, so I kind of went with him. But I took my hunter ed here, so I think it was like 12 or 14. Long time ago.
And now you're from Oregon.
Yes. Yeah, Southern Oregon.
Southern Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
So were you raised there, Jason?
Yeah, I early part of my life we lived over in Lincoln City, like coastal, Newport, Oregon, Lincoln City, Depot Bay, and then when my parents split, we ended up moving down to Grants Pass, Medford area, because we had family there, my grandparents, and I've been there ever since.
Yeah. Well, just so you guys will know, I've allotted Colby one corny joke per hour.
Starts now.
Colby, you get just anytime you want to cash that in.
Cash it in, yeah.
Just cash it in. So if this is an hour-long podcast, you get one. If it's a 2-hour-long podcast, you get two.
Got you. All right.
So
yeah, well, I'm from Texas.
Yeah, originally from Texas. Oh, there's your corny joke.
Yeah. If you give me the option, I'll stamp it fast.
Yeah. Well, so Colby and I are up here bear hunting. Today is August the 1st, which is the opener for Washington State, the bear hunt, and we are spot and stalk hunting. You can't use hounds in Washington for bear, but there was several things that kind of made us decide to come up here. Number one being, I've heard about Washington bear hunting for a long time. I mean, this state has a lot of bear. It's your classic Pacific Northwest, Douglas fir. Like, describe the wood, the timber to me here, the terrain, topography.
Yeah, you're mostly looking at like Doug fir here. We've seen some spruce up there in a couple spots that we stopped at.
I stopped and showed Colby a hemlock. I found one. He says, I would have never even probably noticed that, but we've got the hemlock and pine.
Wasn't Rambo First Blood Part 1 shot up here somewhere?
I think it was.
Okay. Anybody that's listening to the Bear Hunting Magazine podcast is for sure going to have watched Rambo First Blood Part 1. Okay, and the original scenes in that movie when Sylvester Stallone, he's just like this renegade straight out of Vietnam War, got this big hair, he's wearing his jacket, his military issue jacket with his name on it, and he's walking, and that music's like da-na-na-na. Na 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 na.
You're gonna make me go and watch. I don't know that
you need to watch more movies, buddy.
There's these beautiful scenes of the Pacific Northwest, and you see these mountains that look just like these.
Yep.
So if you want to know what it looks like where we're bear hunting and where we're recording this podcast, we've pulled our trucks up. We're out in the middle of some national forest land here. It looks like that. So just go watch the trailers.
Watch First Blood.
Rambo First Blood Part 1. I think it came out in 1984. Looks just like that.
Yep.
That's where we're bear hunting.
It's a good description.
So, no, these woods, hunting here to me is like hunting on the moon. It's like very different from even in Montana where we were at just a few months ago. It's very thick. Very thick, except for there's openings from timber harvest. So there's this blocks of timber that they would have cut, but there's also some natural openings and different, like around rock outcroppings at some of the higher elevations, which the highest elevations that we're going to be hunting around here is like 4,000 feet. So the relief would be like from like 1,000 feet to like 4,000 feet. So, you're not getting into like the really high elevations.
Yeah, you're not like if we went over to like St. Helens, I was telling you some of the spots up there you can kind of get up, but
right,
or Hood or some of these. There's some big mountains that only a few of them, like you could see them peeking out. Where I show you the 5 sisters they call them, but for the most part, we're about as high as we can get around here.
So in several places we've been today, we've been able to see Mount St. Helens like way off in the background. So I wouldn't have known much about Mount St. Helens except it is a massive, just like single peak mountain. I mean, it just looks like a big triangle that has had the top third blown off of it. Tell me the story of Mount St. Helens blowing up. I mean, I know it was in 1980.
Yeah, it was 1980, I think.
So it was an active volcano. Did they know it was
May
an active
18th,
volcano?
I think. Yeah, they did. Like you can watch YouTube videos and you'll see that. I mean, some people died. Was it Truman?
Yeah,
he wouldn't leave his cabin. He's like, I'm going with the mountain, and he went with the mountain. And,
wow.
If you YouTube it, you can kind of see some videos of, I mean, just gray, people hiking in, hiking behind the barrier. So they had it all blocked off, and I mean, they knew it was going to go.
Was it smoking or rumbling, or for how long did they know that this mountain was going to blow up?
I think they could see the bulge, so they seen the mountain was bulging. And so instead of coming out the top like a regular,
it blew out.
Yeah, instead of coming out the top like a regular volcano, it just blew the side out, and then this huge slide, like just slid the whole thing, and then all those. If when you kill a bear tonight, and you got the rest of the time to go sightsee, we'll go get a second bear because you can get a second bear tag, but. Maybe we'll go tour some, I can go show you some, we see some big mudslides where it's incredible. Watch some YouTube videos, some of the slides and the water, and
the fallout was unreal.
Yeah.
I mean, the ash fallout all across,
over the country.
all over the place was unreal.
Yeah.
I mean, like thousands of miles away.
I think they said it circled the earth like 7 times. I don't know. It was like in the atmosphere, just
wow. And you still see that mountain smoke sometimes to this day.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but 10 years ago, it was, I don't know if it was 10 years ago, 15, I don't know. Like, time's
irrelevant, buddy.
But it used to be like little mini eruptions, and you'd be up there, and like I remember when we first came from Colorado, we hiked, and we kept seeing these signs like no permits required above, I don't know if it's 4,000 or 4,500 feet or something. There's some limit that you got to get a permit, and so we come from Colorado. I mean, Colorado Springs was 7,000 feet, so we're looking at like 4,500 feet. What? We don't need a permit for that. I mean, like we live at 7,000 back home. Right. And so we hiked and we got up in there and we looked, and it just spouted some steam out. And I was like, okay.
You got to have enough time to get off the mountain. 7,000, it's rough. 4,000, you can run down that mountain.
Are any of these other big mountains volcanoes?
Yeah, they all are.
Are they really?
Yeah, they just haven't gone.
Yeah.
Wow. That's why
it's a hot spot.
Colby and I live in Arkansas.
Right.
Now, we do have a big fault line that comes through Arkansas. Now, thinking about like these big natural disasters that like affect ecosystems, I was just reading on the way here in a book about there's some big terrain feature in Washington that was formed by when the glaciers were melting a gazillion years ago. There was an ice dam that was formed up in Canada. And the ice dam broke, and a body of water the size of Lake Michigan flowed out of this single section of this broken ice dam in 3 hours.
Whoa.
And it formed one of these huge canyons in Washington State. I mean, we live in like this. Anywhere you live, there is a story, and there are experts that understand the story of that terrain. And I'm always interested in topography and geology and just how land features came about. But I can't remember the context that the book was even talking about. But think about a lake, a body of water the size of Lake Michigan that would drain in a matter of hours, and it basically just carved like a massive, just
really,
it's like a pressure washer.
It was like and it was a big canyon. And I'm quite certain it was in Washington, but anyway, Mount St. Helens, it changed the ecosystem all around, especially on that mountain.
It's impressive once you get get into the mud flow, and now it's starting to get green. When we first moved here from Colorado, it was just
bare,
just ash,
Wow.
And now vegetation, I mean, pretty good. It actually turned out to be pretty good habitat. And there's a lot of, there's a Mount St. Helens elk herd, which I think is the largest elk herd in Washington. Don't quote me, but
it's a big muzzleloader elk destination, isn't it? Guys like to muzzleload hunt that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll we're about to learn a lot about this place. I haven't been up here very much, but buddy, what kind of hound hunting are you doing in Washington?
Hardly any. There's coon hunting. I travel to Oregon. I do a lot of bobcat hunting in Oregon.
Okay, bobcat hunting.
Yeah.
in Oregon.
So, I don't break off of raccoons. I don't target them a whole lot. Like I don't like the dark. I've hunted in the dark all night. I've given up hunting in the dark. I like hunting in the morning. So but I used to raccoon hunt, quite a bit. But now I just head out to Oregon and bobcat hunt and cougars. I don't. Again, they're not legal to run, but I don't break my dogs off them because I'd like to use them for studies and stuff like that. Help.
Yeah. So you do some stuff for the state with your dogs?
Not a lot. If they, a few times they'll call if they have a problem cougar in town or something like that, and then I have been helping Bart George. He's doing a cougar study up in Northeast Washington for really interesting. You should do a podcast with him sometime. But he that's neat where they're doing cougar human interaction, and so part of that is you got to catch cougar to collar it, and then he has a radio that he plays. I think he's on Steve, Meat Eater's podcast talking about it, but he plays a sound and then we measure how far when the cougar leaves, and how much energy it uses.
You know where the cougar's at. Like this is after you've caught a cougar with hounds, tranquilize it, put a collar on
Correct.
it.
Then you go back and a Garmin collar on it. So we're able to track it every 2 seconds. And so we can wake that collar up. We use a mini collar so we can, have got a special software on there so you can't just track. You couldn't take your alpha and go track this cougar, but it's a special, software that makes it so that nobody else can track it. And so so we go catch the cougar, and then they put the collar on it, and then we leave. We're done. And then next week we go back in there and we find out where the cougar is. And before we take the dogs, Bart will take a speaker or whoever's, collecting the data, and you blast the speaker as loud as you can, pretty much 80 decibels or whatever his study says. And you start walking towards the cougar, just walking directly towards the cougar, and then seeing when the cougar leaves from the sound.
Yeah.
If he leaves from the sound. And so you measure that. And so on some of them, he's like 10 yards, 20 yards.
So the whole point of it is like for hikers, for hunters, for people that are out in the woods, like it's kind of like trying to say, how often are we walking by these animals and don't even know it, or how often, or what maybe somebody would need to do to alert a lion of their presence if they were trying to not encounter a lion?
Because in Washington, there hasn't been hound hunting of cougars for almost 20 years now. 90, I think it was 97 that. No, 96. It was 94 for Oregon and 96 for Washington. So, 24 years there's been no hound hunting of cougars, and what I don't want to speak for Bart's data, but what we're seeing is those cats are not afraid of human voice or human people. And so after we measure that, he measures basically the energy the cougar uses to get away from his human sound. It's actually he plays. I think he plays the Meat Eater podcast. So we're walking in. I always joke. I said if we ever talk to Steve, he's never gonna be able to kill a cougar over there because you're gonna hear his voice.
You think he's a hiker?
Yeah, they're just gonna take off running as soon as they hear his voice
because they know a pack of dogs is about to.
Yeah. And so then after they measure that energy, then we take the dogs and we go catch it. And so it's basically like hazing it. We tree it, give it an unpleasant, they don't like to be caught. And then we leave, and then we go back.
I hear they don't like to be made fun of.
Yeah.
So you get under the tree and you kind of hackle them
a little bit.
Yeah. And
call it a putty tat.
Yeah, whatever you can. Yeah.
That was Colby's corny joke.
There's cougar jokes to be made, Colby.
That counts for you. Sorry, Colby.
All right.
And then they leave. You leave and you turn the collar back off, and then.
Now, why are they hazing them?
To see if. So, the question is can can they change cougar behavior? You know what I mean? Like there's biologists that say, oh, you just can't change cougar behavior. And so maybe you can, maybe you can't.
Oh, with hounds?
Period.
I think it's just the interaction.
How do you catch a cougar without dogs?
How are you going to collar one?
Yeah.
It can't happen.
So as soon as that cougar leaves,
So the question that they're trying to answer is what?
I'd have to go back and look at his statement, but I think so. One of the questions is there's a lot of deprivation kills in Washington. So basically, government, game wardens, whatever. So cougar comes in, kills an animal, so they have to kill that cougar. We'd rather see it sport hunting. I mean, honestly, we'd rather see those cougars utilize it. The fact that they gotta kill an animal because it does what cougars do and kill things. So the question is can the behavior change when it hears people walking? You know what I mean? Like if was it last year or 2 years ago? Someone, a biker got killed, and then an Oregon hiker got killed.
There was a stretch, there was quite a bit of action
so in this
right
state,
there.
There's been some.
Yeah, within the last two years, has been a biker.
Where did the guy kill that lion with his bare hands?
Yeah, that was Colorado, and so really, it comes down to: is there a better way? With cougars, there's such a political fight. I mean, bears too. You always say the bears are the gateway. The predators, I think, is in general. If you're you're a bear hunting podcast, so you always focus on the bears. But bears, wolves, cougars. I mean, those are your three
predators.
Three things that are politically just difficult to make any headway because you got so many different user groups that come in there. So we were in a meeting and the question was raised that essentially it was kind of brought up on pursuit, just treeing a cougar and leaving it, not harvesting it, catch and release. Is that harmful to a cougar? Is that or cougar safety, or
maybe is this what's happening? Is this what they're trying to study? So you catch a cougar, then you measure the amount of human pressure that it takes to spook it, and then you tree it again. So you haze it again, and so the next time it hears people walking, it takes off quicker.
Yeah, but
is that the idea?
Yeah, the energy the cougar uses to escape.
Okay.
So what we're seeing
we need
with
to do some more research on
the earlier stuff that we've seen is they don't use much energy to escape. Like they are very confident letting you go right up to them. On again, I don't want to speak for his study, but we've seen the first time they don't. I mean, he's had cougars that just at the point where he's nervous that something bad's going to happen, and he's like, whoa. And then you catch it with the dogs. And so the next time that cougar is like, I remember this, I didn't like the dogs, so they, maybe the first time was 10 yards and the next time will be 30 yards or whatever. It's I start leaving. And by the end of it, he does it 4 times. And by the end of it, I think, I haven't talked to him in a while, but most of the time they are not,
they're not sticking around by
you're
time
not going to see them. They are kind of like getting out of the way.
The hazing was effective.
It seems like that. Yeah. I mean, he's got to wait for the study. There's still another year. So maybe it changes. I mean, we just want to see what the data is and we want to follow the data.
Yeah. W Hunting Supply is the supplier that you need to use for all your dog related needs. Whether you're needing Garmin stuff, leashes and collars, custom t-shirts, even technical support. That's what these guys are known for, is their customer service and even tech support that they give to people with Garmin electronics and different things. As far as I know, they will probably even give you dog support. Call W with all your dog questions too. Oh, I'm kidding. W Hunting Supply, they're known for their customer service, and it's a great company. We just spent a week with them. Heck, you're listening to the podcast now where we're talking to them. These are good guys doing good things for the sport and hounding. Western Bear Foundation is a nonprofit hunting conservation organization being a mouthpiece for bear hunters and bears in the western United States. These guys are fighting the good fight. Join their organization. Check them out. Western Bear Foundation. This fall, when I'm muzzleloader hunting, I'm going to be using a CVA muzzleloader. These guys have been around since 1971. You've heard of their products. They build multiple types of muzzleloaders. Some of them are more entry level. Some of them are very high end. CVA is a great company. They make a very quality product with Bagara barrels. It's a world famous barrel maker that makes all their barrels. They're accurate, they're dependable, cutting edge muzzleloader technology from CVA. That's what I'm going to be shooting this fall. Jason, you work for Buddy, you work for W. What kind of dogs do you run? What do you hunt?
Right now we run mainly gray fox, running a bunch of running walker crosses, and I think there's a little bit of trig in a couple of them, but
now are they treeing these gray fox?
Some of them. I mean, I'm kind of at a point right now where I got a fairly young pack, and they're not real quick to locate yet. They can run a track real good, but they're a little light on the locate. But yeah, the gray fox will tree. It makes it.
So are you harvesting gray fox with these dogs?
No, unless something happens and they get lucky and catch one by themselves, on the ground. I don't harvest any of them.
So how do you, like, we have gray fox in Arkansas, and I wouldn't know where to tell you to start to strike a track on one. Like, how are you specifically finding gray fox to run?
Well, I mean, most of the areas that I hunt, we've hunted for years, and we just know there's game there. But a lot of creeks, creek drainages, they seem to follow that pretty well. If you got a good rodent population, it seems like they stick around.
How does a gray fox run? Like, what's its pattern? Like, for people that wouldn't be familiar with animals and running dogs, what guys that run different types of animals learn is that different animals do different stuff. Like a bear might just beeline out of the country,
right?
Meaning he might go straight up over a mountain and straight down the valley. And I've heard guys in Arkansas that are running deer. A lot of times they'll say deer make big loops,
big circles,
big, 1.5 mile circles sometimes. A coon doesn't really have much, from my experience, a coon doesn't have that big of a strategy when a dog gets after him. He pretty much runs up a tree.
Right.
I mean, I've heard, so every animal has the specific thing that it does. What does a gray fox do?
A normal gray fox, they loop pretty good. I mean, you can hear a lot of the
How
rays.
big a loop? Half mile?
Maybe,
Do you find the smaller game don't run as big of circles?
It really depends. I mean, if they're educated, they run different than a fox you just stumble on. I mean, we're running the same fox 20, 30, 40 times sometimes, because we just choose not to harvest them so we can hunt. I'm the opposite of Buddy. Buddy likes hunting in the morning, and I hunt at night after family goes to bed and go hit the woods. But, an educated one, they learn just like anything else. Some of them are road runners. They'll hit the road and make you think they're a coyote for a while, and you'll be second guessing everything. But yeah, a lot of ins and outs. They'll usually hit a road and try to trick a dog there. But if they're going out of the country, they'll usually loop back and stay fairly close to their home range.
Yeah. You just said something there, a fox trying to trick a dog. Let me ask you two guys, master houndsmen. Colby,
what are you going to say?
You're talking to Jason and Colby, right?
Jason and Colby, master houndsman. Do you really think an animal tries to, quote, air quote, trick a dog?
100%.
Well, let me build a case, and then you answer.
I don't think entirely.
Okay. I've got both of you answered. No, my question is, because I've heard people say that, is an animal reasoning? Like, I am going to cross through this creek and then cross back over the creek. And when we see that, we see reason, because we think in reason. We think in logical terms. And so we're like, he was trying to trick the dogs, because maybe it did. Mm-hmm. But is that just a natural, just maybe a strategy to lose, something that's pursuing them? So in that sense, I guess it would be a trick. But I don't know. So
I'll let Buddy go first.
No, you go first.
Yeah, you first.
Build your case.
I would say I've seen it too many times. I mean, and this happened last season. I'd run a fox one night, and the next night my buddy would come in and run the same fox, and we know it's the same fox because it's the same fox every time. And he's like, man, this thing ran really weird tonight. It hit this creek, and then it just went down. I'm like, yeah, that's where he lost me 2 nights ago. And we just see it. I don't think that they're necessarily trying to seek that out to lose them. I mean, maybe a little, but if they find something that works, I mean, I see continuously they go back and try to hit those same spots to throw those dogs. Or same with running roads. The same areas I'm hunting now, 4 or 5 years ago, I mean, we had a couple in there that would just run a mile of pavement road sometimes.
Oh, wow.
Because they knew they could get away from the dogs that way, and you'd swear you were burning
Which
a
lane
coyote.
did they run in? Did they
the right side? They were on the right side. Yeah, they were good. They don't want to get hit, right? But yeah, I don't know about the reasoning, but I think when they find something that works, they definitely go back to it.
Yeah. Okay. And I guess it's a way to describe it, like the term, like when I've heard people say, he's trying to trick the dogs. Mm-hmm. That's where I'm always like, well, maybe he's just doing what a fox does. Mm-hmm. And he's not, but we're basically saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Because if a fox does that, it's a natural adapted strategy to survive that's worked for him. And so he's going to do it again. And he can't learn
evasive
from
maneuvers,
that.
man.
Yeah. What were you going to say, buddy?
So I kind of lean towards your mentality. Like, I don't think that and so I don't fox hunt, so I don't know fox, and I don't pretend to be any like great cat hunter or anything, but I can give you one example that I learned on this study, watching the cougar. And it was actually the very first time we had the Garmin collar on. We're all nervous. Is it going to turn on? Is it going to work? And I didn't have my dogs in there. So, and this cat had some younger ones. So we didn't want to run really experienced dogs. And so I'm going to, but anyways, so we go in and we do the study. It moves out and it's time to call the dogs in. And we're watching the cougar on the GPS, which is the first time that, in my knowledge, ever this has happened where we're watching
like live time.
Yeah, watching the GPS on a cougar live. And so the dogs come in and we're on the tracks in the snow. You can see the snow, the dogs get there. And so we can tell where the cougar is and the dogs are at the same time. And that cougar went down and it hung a 90 degree and went up this little drainage. And then it went up and it turned around and it backtracked 50, 60 yards. And this is before it was jumped. Like, if I would have watched this from just the dog portion of it, I'd be like, oh, they jumped it right there. Like, before the cougar could hear the dogs, it already did a 90-degree turn. It went out, it turned back, and it came up and, was off 40 yards, either in a tree or sitting. I don't know, on a rock looking over. And so, I mean, at that point when I seen this, the dogs had not even jumped the cougar. And I looked at Bart and I go, I'm glad I don't got my dogs in this race. I was like, oh. And
what you're saying is he walked past, like he was going to go bed down over in this one spot, and he walked past where he went to bed, turned around, backtracked himself.
He did a 90-degree turn first, went up a couple hundred yards, and he wasn't running. I mean, he was walking, and he was evading. But then he turned around, like if you would have seen it, you're like, oh, he tapped that tree. You know what I mean? If so, he came back on his backtrack for 40, 50 yards, and then jumped off the side and was up, somewhere like that.
Cut bank or something.
And this was before the dogs had even put pressure on him. You know what I mean? There was no.
They were barking though.
They were barking, but like
they're still trailing.
They're
still trailing.
Behind.
There was no pressure on that cat to to tree. I mean, there was no what I would think of it would take to tree a cougar. It was just that pressure wasn't there. And if I had just watched it on the Garmin from the dogs, it would have looked like a whole different story. It's like the fact that cougar did all that stuff before there was a dog to trick. You know what I mean? It was in it. Like I said.
So are you saying that is building a case for that animal had a preconceived strategy for what to do when it was being pursued?
I don't think so. It wasn't pursued. I mean, it had barely heard dogs barking.
So you just think it was just doing what a cougar does?
Does what a cat does.
Yeah. And so the dogs went up there and they hit that tree and started treeing. So one of the guys had to run down there, and we thought, well, maybe there's a kitten there. You know what I mean? Like we're up on top, and we're like, that cougar 60 yards from me off the northeast, and so he had to go down there, and he's like, there's no cougar, there's no cat here. We didn't know if it was a female or what, but so what did that cougar do entirely? We can only see the location.
Yeah. So
we don't know if it climbed, jumped. We don't know, and it was young dogs, so it wasn't really experienced dogs, but it opened my eyes that it was like, I would have told that story way different if I had not seen what the cougar did before the dogs.
Wow.
And
so much speculation inside of
a lot, but like
really none of us know what happens between here you go dogs and getting to them.
Yeah.
Isn't that the mystery of it though? I mean, like that to me is inside of hunting. It's one of the last like frontiers that we use technology to help us, but still it's like there's so many incalculable unknowns and variables and things you cannot see and understand or predict.
Yeah. Another good example would be before GPS, you had telemetry, and you'd be hunting in a place like this, and Don, one of my hunting buddies, Don Gilbert, he would say, back in the day, you'd hear this race, and it's like, oh, they're making loops back there. You know what I mean? And it wasn't that, in your mind, you hear the dogs go out, and then they come back, and then they go out, and they come back. And so you're audibly hearing what your mind's painting a picture of before you had the GPS. It's making loops. It's coming in sound and out of sound.
I see.
Well, it was just going in draws. It was going down in the gullies and come back out of a gully. So it wasn't looping. Those dogs were just going out of sound because they're going into a creek. You know what I mean? So sometimes, so I'm not saying that they don't. I'm just saying I don't know that I've got it figured out to say that they do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty incredible. What do you think, Colby?
I think it's fascinating.
Fascinating? No, okay. Does an animal trick a hound, or is he just doing what he does and he just gets away with it?
I don't know. I mean, the most interesting thing I saw when we used to run hogs with dogs was we had a big patch of switch cane, and the dogs went in there and all these hogs shot out one side, and we were just waiting, and all of a sudden this big boar hog came out the other side. I mean, that was the thing I saw that made me wonder. It's like, it might have been calculated, or he might have just been lazy and just like, I'm big bad, I'm not going to move, because he was like biggest boar hog I ever saw.
So after the dogs left out with all the
other hogs, chasing after them. He went out the backside? He went out the backside.
Oh, that's classic mature male of any species.
Yeah.
Just look at a bobcat ducking on you, or a fox running back through your dogs. And
so that happens, huh?
Mm-hmm. I was going to say bull elk. I've heard a lot, bull elk sneaking off, with the cows. My old man used to say, the cows they run the cows off this way, and he'd tiptoe around that way.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge. There's much better elk hunters than I am, but how do you explain that? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty fascinating stuff, and I've heard people houndsmen say that technology, Garmin's being able to track dogs, has also told a whole different story of what's happening with dogs.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like, I think there's so many human biases involved in dealing with dogs. Like, even from the point of if you've got 5 dogs, there's one that you like.
We project a lot
for no good reason. I mean, like, if we were just unbiased and we're like, which one catches game, like, some of them are getting credit for something else, whether it's a blue tick and you grew up with blue ticks and so you like blue ticks, or whether it's you like the way that one looks, or whether it's you like the way that one barks, or whether it's you like that one because you got it from some well-known breeder and you think it's going to be awesome, but really the dog you got from the pound is better. Like, so when you turn those dogs loose and they leave your sight and you hear a race, like, you kind of project, and a lot of times with big game hunting, the race might even leave your hearing, and so you just get to a tree and all the dogs are there. But I've heard people say with Garmin's, you know what's happening a whole lot more, who's in the lead, who's falling out. And for people that are just, and I'm new really to the big game world, I mean, just in the last 7 years, I guess, but like these races are so long that you might have 5 dogs, and it's not like five dogs stay together in a line, nose on tail, chasing this animal. It's like, one dog catches a break with the wind and maybe gets ahead, and another one makes a lose for whatever reason and gets hung up on a part of the track. And so your pack can get spread out, and now you don't want that to happen. I mean, you would hope your pack would stay together, but and so over time you begin to see which dogs really have a knack for staying in front of the pack, for really doing the work out there. And so this technology is showing people that.
It's changed a lot. That's what I know. I've talked with a lot of people. I mean, it's changed down to the type of dogs you can get away with hunting now. You know, like, shoot, 6-7 years ago, it's been longer than that now, but before Garmin, if you didn't have a dog that had tree and stay treed, you didn't have anything worth feeding. It had to stay there with the meat, and you had to get to it. Where now, I mean, we can get away with running some dogs that are light on the tree or quiet on track because you can still keep track of them.
Oh, I see.
So I think it's changed a lot.
Yeah. For the better?
I don't know. I think that's a catch-22. I think it's responsible for a lot of judgment on dogs. I think used to, a dog could get away with a lot more than now.
It's kind of like having a GPS on your truck, and your boss is tracking you.
Yeah. I think it's definitely changed.
Does Buddy have a well, I guess we need to ask Buddy.
Yeah,
you may
I'll not listen for a second.
You may not know.
He cut his mic for a minute.
For sure, Buddy has a GPS on Jason's truck.
There's a GPS on Jason.
Yeah, I got an ankle bracelet
It's hidden
going
under his beard.
Yeah, keep it tucked in there.
This implant. I don't know. The one good thing that I can say is, and I always joke, I say, I may not want to go where that dog is, but I know where I need to go. Like I may not, back in the day, you look at some of this country and it's like, you can't hear the dog. You can't, you get a signal, you can get a signal in some of this country. You can get a signal anywhere you want it in this ground. If there was a dog in the bottom of that hole right there we're looking at, I mean, I'd be driving over here and I'd go over there, and I'd spend 2 hours, 3 hours trying to triangulate where that dog is. That maybe I could just hear the echo, and I know they're treed there, but I can't figure it out.
Right.
I may not want to go down that, but I know where my dog is, and at the end of the day, I'll go get him. And so I haven't left the dog overnight since I've had Garmin. Like I've spent many a nights sleeping on a little road like this, trying to figure out how. I don't know exactly where they are. And in the dark, it's really hard to figure out where to go into them. I just don't. I don't have to worry about that. I can go get them.
Well, and it makes the guys with limited hunting opportunity. I think it makes it a lot easier. Like weeknight hunts, I can go out on a Tuesday night and go hunt, and when I'm ready to go home, we go home.
Yep.
Used to, you'd turn a dog loose, and if they didn't bark, you'd think the track was over. You'd holler them out, but now you can see they're still working something. And, I use that as a tool. Like for these young dogs I'm hunting right now, I've been able to hunt them kind of alone away from my hunting partner and be able to watch them on that, not making a peep, but I'm watching them work that track. and know that at least they're doing something. They're not wandering around and calling them out.
Yeah. What kind of dogs do you have, Jason?
They're mainly like running walker crosses, tree dog, running dog
said.
crosses.
Yeah. And what kind of dogs do you have, buddy?
Mutts. I mean, I got a little bit of everything right now.
Red, white, and blue.
I don't have a plot.
Red, white, and blue.
Yeah, red, white, and blue. That's what I always like. I got 2 blue dogs.
Oh, literally red, white, and blue. I thought that was a
Yeah.
clever
yeah.
joke, but it's
I got
walkers, red bones, blue ticks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a walk. I mean, it probably comes from walkers. It comes from like a desert dog kind of breeding. So, but it looks red, white, and black. And then I got a little black and it's a black and tan looking dog that comes out of some red dogs. So,
Can I describe your living room to the crowd here?
sure.
So you walk into Buddy's house, and it's a new nice home, and there's what appears to be like a built-in long cabinet over right in the middle of the living room. And I thought it was just like a built-in, just like it looked nice. It looked like a professionally. I mean, it was like just it's a dog kennel. They're five-hole dog kennel, really classed up. I mean, looks great. And so he lets his dogs run. He's got a big fenced-in area behind his house, so the dogs are running out there during the day. And then at night, you bring all the hounds right into the living room and kennel them up.
Yeah. That kind of just started recently because we had to tear down our house to build the new one. We were going to do a remodel, and it's like a 4-year process. And finally, we're like, we just got to restart over. So we bulldozed it down. And we bulldozed the barn down where I kept all my kennels. And so with the county and not in the permit process, and there's just, I mean, it's been headache after headache. We were like, well, so we had these wire crates in there. And I was on Facebook, and some local gal just had this one little, I mean, it's I wouldn't say it's like well built. You know what I mean? Like it's like, I don't want to say, it's not pallet built. It's not like pallet wood, but it's just a thin wood. She's not a luxury. It
looks nice.
It looks nice. It's a little bit lighter weight than I would.
I didn't even notice it when I walked in the house. I was just like, it fits the color of the cabinet. Like I didn't even notice until Colby said, "Look at this," and I looked down, and I just took me a few minutes. And I was like, "This is a dog kennel."
Yeah, that's cool. I seen it on Facebook, and this gal, she didn't make them by 5, but I called her. I was like, "Hey, can you make one by 5?" And she's like, "How long was that?" I'm like,
What is that thing? It's got to be 12 foot.
It is 12 foot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
well, I think that shows you how dedicated you are to your dogs.
He likes
to my
it
wife.
enough.
To my wife. That's how dedicated I am to my wife.
So because your wife likes the dogs.
Yeah, she likes to take care of them. She likes the dogs as dogs. I like them too, but she really enjoys. Like, I've given up. They come on the couch now, and I mean, I've kind of given up.
Yeah. Now, do your dogs live like normal dogs outside?
Like normal dogs, I like that. Yeah, mine are generally kenneled. I got, my old blue tick Henry. He's in the house with us now, and as they retire, we usually move them in. But for the most part, I got it's like a 36-foot long metal carport. So we do indoor runs there, and then we're in the process of fencing off a big turnout right now.
Hey, do you mind sharing your strategy about cleaning dog pens?
It's a really good one.
It worked out pretty good. Well, so my oldest son, Colin, he wants to be with Dad.
How old
all
is
the
he?
time. He's 4, and so he was wanting to be a cowboy. I think every boy wants to be a cowboy at some point.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just kind of goofing off one day, and I said, "Oh yeah, that's cowboy work." Well, his ears perked up, and he thought, "Well, cleaning dog poop's cowboy work." So I want to do some of that. And he says, "Hey, Dad, you think I could clean some dog poop?" I thought for a second. I said, but I don't think you're quite ready. And that's where it started. And at that point, I didn't know how long it was going to go on. But
this is like Jedi Master, houndsman fatherhood.
So, literally, this ended up being over the course of probably 2 months.
You milked this.
Oh, I milked it, yeah, because every time I told him he couldn't, he wanted it more and more.
Colin's going to listen to this. Colin, I don't know what to say to you now, but you're a grown man.
Right.
And your father totally manipulated you for work.
Yep. So for like 2 months, and my wife thought I was crazy. She's like, that's really working though. And, by the end of it, I said, but I think you're ready. If you want to try, you can clean one kennel. Pick a dog. So he started with one kennel. And from that point on, it was, that's cowboy work. I want that. Dad, do you think I can do all the dogs today? Go for it, buddy.
That is next level.
It worked. I don't think I didn't file that one away for when he turns 15 or something.
Like my kids, that's not going to work anymore.
That was an investment for the long game. It was
insightful.
It worked. So all you out there listening, cowboy work will get it done.
We should get a book and we could sell that. We should have given that for free.
Yeah. We're gonna make this a pay for podcast. Like this one, you got to pay for it.
Well, when I told Buddy about it, I remember he just kind of looked at me like,
damn,
why did I think of that? That's genius.
What a good kid, though.
Oh, man. Have a good kid. He loves those dogs, But that's his only real interaction with them right now because he's so young and I hunt late at night. That's his tie to the dogs now. So he wants to do it. He wants to feed them. He wants to clean them. So yeah, it worked out.
That's awesome.
Hopefully long term.
That's awesome, buddy. I've got a question for you. So W Hound Supply, W Hunting Supply is a hound supply company. You guys sell Garmins, you sell all types of hound related stuff. But really and we have a pretty long history together. Mm-hmm. Just knowledge of each other's businesses and stuff. And what I would say that you are known for is not just selling products, but your stance with fighting for hound related issues in the country. I would say that's a part of your brand.
Yeah. And it roots from like Oregon because that's kind of the guys I grew
So that's
up
my
with.
question. Where did that come from?
Yeah, like we were talking earlier. One of the first guys that I kind of hunted with that was, I want to say a mentor, was Rod Clawwitter, and he was president of the Oregon United Hound Association. So I kind of got invited to one of their banquet dinners and just seen the fundraising and so that kind of is where it started. Before I think I might have done stickers. I don't know what I didn't do much, but and then I did this little T-shirt thing, and it was just natural. I was going to go to that convention anyways, and so they were like, "Oh, bring some shirts." So we set up a little booth or whatever, and so that's kind of one of the connections I had to meet a lot of houndsmen was through that. The other thing was Big Game Houndsman. It was a website which introduced me on a national level. Before this was before Facebook days. Yeah. So those are the two things that really, were catalyst in the beginning was Oregon United Sporting Dog Association, and then Big Game Houndsman, and then, all those hound organizations. They're trying to raise money. They got to raise money to fight to keep hunting, and so when they'd ask for donations, we tried to do what we could. And probably gave more than maybe we could afford. I don't in the early days, but it just worked for us. They took care of us. Their groups and their membership. It was it's humbling. Like it was just like, hey, they needed somebody, and I always said if what we do makes the other guys jump in and do more, then I'm okay with that. Like we don't got to be the only one, except for Jason. Whenever plumb a tree, we try to cut him out.
But that's one thing. Even before I was at W, and Buddy and I were quote unquote competition. It was.
So you had a hound supply company yourself.
I did
several years ago.
Yeah, I've been with W. It'll be 4 years in February, I think. Yeah, mid-February.
Now, isn't this a government monopoly? This is like Facebook buying Instagram.
Yeah. Well,
on the West Coast
I'm
it was.
actually with the FBI.
Yeah, right. But that's one thing I always said, is whether you like him or don't.
There's plenty not to like.
I'd say, that guy has done more for our sport than about anybody I can think of. Because it was always, donations here and there. When I walked into an event, I'm like, God dang it. There's W. We used to call it double up Chuck. My wife and I like double up Chuck all over this place.
That was my point. And Buddy's the wrong person to ask about himself because when you hear him talk about himself, he's just like, well, we made some shirts and gave away some money.
No, it was a massive level.
This W and Buddy have done a ton for the hound community, and and they have, and I think it's just.
I'll toot his horn.
Yeah,
even back in the day,
it stems from a love of hound hunting and seeing value inside the sport. It's seeing value inside of what we're doing at all levels. I mean, from wildlife management to the dogs, to the family, to the economics of having houndsmen on the landscape, to the rights and freedom that we should have. And there's no logical reason why it should be taken away from us. But we're seeing it all over the country. So it's, anybody who's listening to this podcast and you guys, W podcast, it's like the hound world in the broad scheme of North American hunting is massively under attack.
Yes.
And so that creates advocates that have to step up. And as we know, fights these days aren't fought with sticks and stones. It's fought with money and knowledge and influence. And that's, y'all have worked hard with funding some of these organizations and stuff, but also the knowledge sector of it, just informing people about our lifestyle, building a community like, Big Game Housing website, and even just kind of the culture that W's helped build. I think it builds a culture that people want to be a part of. They're just like, running hounds is cool. Running hounds is good for everything involved in this. This isn't a good American thing to do. And anyway, I think y'all played a big part in that.
Yeah, and I think some of that, when I think back, and we were talking about this in the truck, where you could have been a deer hunter, you're a whitetail fanatic, but you would have been lost in a sea of other hunters. So you focusing on bears was beneficial for you, and for us, hounds was what was our niche, and because I was an elk hunter, I was a deer hunter, and I tried to make elk decals and elk shirts. It didn't work out. Because
there's 5 billion other people doing the same thing.
And so when you just find that niche that you fit in, you kind of you resonate. Is the best I can describe it. Is you can. I don't say you work half as much. You work as hard, but you see twice the reward. Yeah. When you just focus.
Well, such a small percentage. I mean, hound hunters in general, you look at the hunting population of the U.S., we're talking small. What is it, 7%, 6% identify?
Less than that.
Is it down?
Yeah. I think right now we're at 4.5% of the U.S. population is licensed hunters. And a lot of it's because the U.S. population has increased so much in the last 30 years.
But you look at hound hunters beyond that, we're talking fractions of a percent.
Yeah.
So we are the minority, but yet there's so much that can be brought to the table as far as game management and things like that it's a viable tool. It's hard to have that resonate, So any chance that you have to do that and make an impact, I think you really got to double down on it.
Well, how have y'all built that, buddy?
Built what?
Just a community of dedicated people? Because
By
see,
accident.
Okay, you've built a brand, and part of my interest in talking to you, honestly, is like almost a business interest. Just like I like brands, and truthfully, everybody does. People interact with brands in different ways. Some people are partakers of brands, and they like. I mean, everybody wears some logo on their shirt that they identify with. That they're like, this. I can identify with this brand. I want to represent this brand. I want my life to kind of shadow what's inside of that. So, how do you do that inside the hound community?
And I mean, like by accident, like honestly. So W, the word, I don't know if you know what that means, but
I was about to ask you. You got to tell us what that means.
so my last name was
Because
Woodberry.
the branding is tough because we don't get it.
Yeah, so my last name was Woodberry, and so it was, I started as W Graphics, and honestly, I just didn't want to be at the end
The
of
letter
the
W.
Yeah, the letter W.
People can't see you
X,
writing with
Y,
your
Z,
finger right
W.
now.
Not to use.
No, yeah, just like
W.
like I can't do my alphabet, but it takes too long. But get down to the the end. If we go backwards from Z, and we can do backwards. You hit the W. My last name was Woodberry, and I honestly, I think I talked about this on the other podcast, but I didn't want to be in the end of the yellow pages. You know what I mean? I didn't want to be like,
We would have been crushed. Hands down. He would have
Right.
folded.
for somebody to thumb through the yellow pages to get
Double A round supply.
right, triple A. And honestly, that was on
That was next
my
on the
my
list.
list. That was triple A, graphics, W graphics. I'm like, well, and so it just kind of, I was like, oh, the word W and
So Woodberry.
Woodberry, W.
Okay.
That was entirely
But the
what
way it's spelled is double, like two.
DOUBLE.
U
Yeah.
as in the letter.
That was so I could get. I wouldn't be the first because nobody goes
He'd
by
be
the
above
first
the
one
fold.
in the
Buddy
yellow
was
pages.
telling me a little bit ago about how he understands electronics and actually has a lot of background in electronics and how sometimes he solves a problem from the wrong side. So people can't follow him. Okay, now this is beginning to make sense.
Yes. So I was looking at the yellow pages and like, I want to be right there, and I had to find a letter that fit the answer, and so that's kind of what my first logo had a W in it. I mean, it actually was a W and it was camoed out and it was crappy as all get out. But, and then it was like I always say, like you do something right and it's kind of like getting petted. You're like, oh, that felt good. Let's do that again. And so purely accident, like honestly. And then I started doing it intentional. You know what I mean? Like there was a moment where I was like, oh, this is what branding is.
That's the shtick right there.
You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, what was the first thing that made you think it was working?
Seeing a shirt from a distance and going,
Okay, so you mean
that's either a Hooters shirt or that's a W shirt.
Okay.
You don't cut that out of your podcast, probably.
Well, like Northwood, what we were watching at your place last time I was up here, Northwood's Law, and Laura, like, we were having a regular conversation, and we hear Laura, like, where's the remote? And she pauses it and backs it up, and she says, that kid's got our shirt on. And it's like just this much. I mean, just like a little section
just
of
see a
this shirt,
piece.
and she's like, that's our shirt. We ended up tracking the kid down thanks to the Facebook
We stalked
followers,
him.
and we sent him some new gear.
Nice.
Yeah. So it was honestly just this is the shirt I'm wearing, but it was just the bold orange that was identifiable from a distance when it started to click for me. That was like, okay, like I can. That's our shirt. Like you can just see it. And now we're trying to separate off a little bit. So we, like you see Jason's shirt. You know, he's got
The two dogs are kind of part of it.
it's hidden because not all hound guys want to be pow, you know. So we're trying to feel that out to subdue it a little bit. And so now we've really focused on the logo, which is the two dogs running. You know what I mean? And so because you know we just don't want to have orange everywhere. You know, and so, but it's tough. But that was how it started.
Deeper than that, though, is that so you had a good logo, which is part of branding, but you built You built a culture that people wanted to get behind.
Yeah.
So how'd you do that, buddy?
By accident.
By hiring Jason?
No, I was way before that. I had to fight against the current. Even.
You were going on forums with all these, fake names like.
No, that was a buddy thing. That was about the time James Van Geisel called and ordered something or put an order in, and my wife and I are like, "That's Buddy's buddy.
Yeah,
his money's good. Send it."
Well, we would. I mean, like, we were fanatical about making sure that we were. I don't want to say the best, but like if there was another product out there, we wanted it to test it. Was it work? Was it better? Do we need to get it? And that's for every GPS system that comes out, every accessory for Garmin. And I still, like, if I see something, I'm like, now I just call them and buy it. But back then I was too afraid to call Jason and say, "Yeah, I want one of your antennas to do a test on." So I'd have to call a buddy or something and be like, "Hey, can you buy all these antennas for me?" There's some funny stories with that. Guys cussing them out. And
yeah, there's a whole other podcast from those days.
But, just wanting to really, and the big change happened when I quit my job at Intel, and it was like, I'm all in. Like, this is what's got to work for my family. There's no other.
And what year would that have been?
14, I think. 12 or 14, I think. I think it was 14. Yeah, I tell you, it was after my daughter was born, so 9 years ago. You do the math.
Okay.
She just turned
11, 2011.
No, yeah. So 2012 is when I quit Intel and started full time at W, and that was when it was not a hobby, because before it was more than a hobby, but it was
a side business. Sort of.
Yeah, my wife would, a lot of guys still remember, call my wife and she would ship and, they'd come by and at that point it was like, no, we're going to dedicate our attention to it and just focus on doing. Cause, I mean, in the beginning you had to borrow from you get a credit card statement or, you take a credit card fee and, well, shoot, it'd take 2 or 3 days to get that money in your account. And so you didn't have any money to speak of, and somebody come up and call by an 18-dog system, and you're like, sure, I could take that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm gonna. Whoever bought an 18-dog system back in 2010, we would have to like wait a day or two for the funds to get into the account because we couldn't afford to buy the 18-dog system, and so we place the order just about the time whenever their credit card would take a day. So, we had it figured out down to the day. It's like you had to hold for 2 days or a day and a half, and then you could send the email just before they closed. And so they'd go the next morning and it was a loop. And then I went to PayPal and they gave the money instantly. I mean, just like as soon as, and you could get a debit card with them. Oh, that was the best thing ever because I'd have the debit card. And as soon as I took your money, I could place the order. And so we're a lot quicker. And that's when we really started to get known for, quick shipping. And now we make it an effort to try to get everything shipped out the same day. The back orders are tough sometimes, but if we have an order in a system, and it just comes from wanting to do the right thing.
Yeah. Well, I think with our market, hound guys in general, there's no such thing as like waiting. If they have a collar that goes bad, they need it now. So, that's where the fast shipping and things like that, the reputation that Buddy's built over the years is where it stands out is, they understand that we understand the urgency involved in that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are just, you read a book on business sometimes and it's like, do this, do that, do that. And you can read it in its words, but then you need to really just do it. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's like you can know what to do, but sometimes doing it is a little bit harder than just reading about it.
Execution is the tough part.
What's your number one piece of advice for a business owner, buddy? Not in the hound world, just a business owner. Because what I've seen is you're a good you're a good business owner.
I don't know.
You're an
about
entrepreneur.
that.
Well, you're right. I take it back.
If you've seen all the train wrecks I got behind me,
Well,
you know what I
no,
mean? Like
see,
that-
that's
that's
part
what
of
made it, though.
See, that's the misconception is that people think they see somebody that's been successful and they're like, well, of course they were successful. That's, and the example I use all the time. Of course LeBron James is the best athlete in the world. He's LeBron James. Well, he wasn't always LeBron James.
yeah.
Like he wasn't born that way. He worked his tail off and yada yada. And he's maybe a bad example because he did go pro straight from high school. It's Colby. He was on the cover of Sports Illustrated when he was 17. Okay, and he's 39 years old.
What's his name?
And he's still giving us what we want, even if there's no fans in the NBA. Wow, we just took a side tour.
Yeah.
No.
Either you're going to answer
So
it, I'm going
COVID-
to answer it for you.
I don't hear Jason's input, but think about it. I think the number one thing you can't be afraid of is failure, because I'm not afraid to fail. Like Jason will come up with an idea, and sometimes I say, "Oh, now we're going to do that" or whatever. And at other times I'm like, "Let's try it. I don't think it's going to work," and I'll tell you, "Yeah, I don't think it's going to work."
He's not afraid to say, I don't think this is going to work, but
Let's try it.
But let's try it.
Like we don't know. I mean, like I said, I'm not afraid to just try something, and then I don't fully commit until I kind of see that it's not a dead end, But
Right.
I think sometimes people, and I know for me, I would have never grown if I didn't leave Intel. You know what I mean? Like if I would have never jumped, and I don't know, it was Harvey, somebody, I don't know, somebody was talking about jumping. There's some YouTube video about you got to jump, and I really resonate with that because that was what it took for me. Was I was scared. I had 2 kids, no health insurance. You know what I mean? Like there was a lot to leave Intel, which I was comfortable. I had a decent job. I would not be where I am now, but I was. They weren't going to fire me. I didn't have to. It would take a lot to screw up at Intel to get fired. And so I jumped. I mean, my wife pushed me.
I was going to say, she kind of pushed you over the ledge, didn't she?
She told me either jump or quit, but and so that was the scariest part of my whole ordeal. Was once I jumped, I was committed, and I was like, all right, you better swim. I mean, you
Got no choice.
Yeah. And when I did have a choice, it was easy to just like, oh yeah, whatever. So that I'm not telling people to jump until you're ready to jump, but
Right.
you won't be successful if you don't jump.
You know what? So in 2013 is when I acquired Bear Hunting Magazine, which was a big jump all in its own. And the way that it worked with me was this opportunity presented itself. And the way that things have worked in my life a lot of times with bigger moves have been like they've just been almost such no-brainers to me and to my wife too. That's a big factor. If we're both in agreement about it, then we can like move forward with confidence. But I remember I was gonna quit the business that I owned and take over
What
this
was that?
landscape business.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. I was doing landscaping to basically prop up my ability to hunt and freelance write and run a nonprofit hunting conservation organization in Arkansas. But what I was doing for a living was just working. And it wasn't until I told somebody over the phone what I was doing. I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be landscaping next month. I've got a magazine. I'm taking over a magazine. Yada yada. This. And he was like, "Wow, that's pretty risky, Clay." And I was like, "You think so?" And
Didn't think that.
I mean, for real. And it was a guy I really respected. He was older than me, and he was a good businessman himself. And it was like the first time that it ever occurred to me that what I was doing, and I still don't think it was risky, but people would have perceived it as risky. And obviously it was risky. Just with everything. I had no backup plan. I had no health insurance. But the way that I've done a lot of things in business is that if you're trying to guard and protect something,
Yeah.
you're probably never gonna like move forward. it's like I had nothing to lose. And I'm not advising people to be reckless because I feel like I had a lot of direction. I mean, it was things that I had a lot of input from influential people in my life that was helping me with this. It just, everything was right for it to work. But anyway, just, I didn't have anything to lose. And that's the way I feel right now with like business and stuff. It's like the only way to grow is to not be afraid to lose what you've got.
Yeah.
If you can say it that way, take a, not a risk, but you just
Calculated risk.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to look at it, and it gets harder sometimes because in the beginning it was, it was easy to go from a small business to a little bit bigger business. Like I always say, to go from $2,000 a month in receipts to $4,000, double your money. You know what I mean? Like go, and the bigger it gets, the hard, you just don't double that anymore. You know what I mean? Now you're taking
the rate of growth.
Now we got to grab, if we can get 5% or 8% growth, you know what I mean? Like the number, it's a bigger number, but back in the day, it was like, man, we grew 100% year over year for a couple of years. And it was like, wow, things are just taking off. And now with it's just gotten to a bigger scale that sometimes I'm over my head. I'm literally in over my head that I wish I would have taken a different college class. I wish I didn't have an electronics degree and I had a business degree.
Yeah.
Well, let's. I want to jump back into hounds, buddy. What would be your El Primo hound hunt if you could do anything in the country? Oh, he's speechless.
Oh man,
Be thinking about it, Jason. It's coming.
That's tough. Bobcat. That's what I'm doing.
Hunting bobcat in Oregon.
September. I want to be. That's what I want to do.
Okay.
Like honestly,
That's an acceptable answer.
I don't know if I told Jason, but I'm pretty sure I have. The whole shop is at some point. I don't want to. I never built W. I keep talking about W, right? Am I plugging myself enough?
So good.
I'm not building this to be a millionaire. I'm building this so I can have some gas money to go up in the woods and go bobcat hunting.
That's why I work here now.
Yeah, that's why Jason's taking over.
Yeah, I mean, if I was, are we talking with our own dogs?
No, what? Just like if you just anything, like you could say, man, I wish I had a pack of hounds and lived in none of it and could chase polar bears.
Honestly, I would love to go back and get a nice bear, harvest a nice bear with my own hounds, because when we lost all of our hunting in California, because I had got into hounds after we banned it here in Oregon. And then I say here, I'm sitting in Washington.
And you said we banned it. Were you a part of that?
I was not. I promise you that. It was.
See, this is why Jason. I don't know if you caught that, Clay, but this is why Jason's good, because he's like, oh, this is Clay.
He didn't want to pass the blame.
No, he knows that we're on the bear hunting podcast, and see me, I threw you under the bus. I'm like, bobcats, and he's like, I know what he wants. He's going to tell you what you want to hear.
No, I had got into dog hunting the last couple years that it was legal in California, and I had harvested 2 bear down there, and one of them was decent, but I had a dog at the tree, but it doesn't mean they played any part in any of that. I was hunting with a group of guys that took me under their wing.
It wouldn't have mattered. You wouldn't have known.
Right, exactly.
But we did. We did.
Well, I'm not going to say we ever ran GPS in California before it was legal, so I would just like to go back and harvest a nice bear with my own dogs. I feel like I really missed that opportunity just due to the timing. So that's what I would want to go back and do.
Yeah. Right on. I hear you.
What about you?
Your hound dreams.
In my hound dreams?
Yeah.
Man,
you hadn't even done a corny joke. Yeah, you get a hound dream and a corny joke.
I don't know. I thought the corny joke was gone, so my mind's
we're
not
in
racing.
our second hour. So.
Reset.
I don't know. I think I'd like to go after a mountain lion and maybe like a lynx at some point. I think a lynx would be cool, like up in
like
BC.
a BC.
Yeah.
Let's
They
do it.
kill some big ones.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm up for it. For
If
sure.
we can get to Canada, can you even get to Canada right now?
Not right
Not
now.
right now.
Borders closed.
Yep.
Borders closed.
Yeah, the lynx are fun.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. I was thinking whenever you asked me that, like it was cougar, it was lynx, it was bobcat, and the lynx is just too cold to enjoy that long.
Yeah.
Whereas bobcat, I can just enjoy it's not, you do have to go out in the cold for it, but it's not like you in there. It's cold.
Yeah.
You got to deal with cold a lot, and I don't.
Yeah, I think for me, it's part of the allure is just I haven't seen them in the wild, and so it's like something new.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Nice.
Yeah.
But you, I want to hear yours.
You know, I am under the spell of the lion hunter these days, and have been for a while. I would, and I actually, I mean, I have plans to do this, to do some do-it-yourself lion hunting, either in New Mexico or in Idaho. You know, I've got the dogs that I'm running have some, you know, a lot of them that strain is used for big game. So I feel like even though my dogs are coon dogs, you know, I feel like, well, I know I Straight Cedillo, my buddy Straight Cedillo in New Mexico's running a little female that he got from me that's doing really good on dry ground lines out there. But no, I would love to take my mules on a do-it-yourself deal, a couple of good dogs, and tree a big lion.
Now,
that would be El Primo.
With your celebrity status, you got any guy that's going to
I'd
take
probably
you?
take a limo out there.
Okay. Yeah.
I'd probably have somebody drive the truck and horse trailer, and then I would take the limo.
Yeah.
Put the saddle on for you.
Flying like a boss.
Your jet helicopter comes in.
Oh, where was this question going down?
Are you gonna? So you say do it yourself. You're gonna intentionally not, like, if you come here, like, you're gonna have a hard time keeping up with a cat dog. You know
Do
what I
it
mean?
yourself is, well, ask your question. I'm sorry.
So if let's just say you want to do bobcats, I'm like, come on over, Clay, and you come here and you bring your dogs with a seasoned cat hunter,
Sure.
a seasoned lion hunter. Your dog's gonna have a hard time keeping up with that,
sure.
because they're just conditioned for that.
Yeah.
So are you, when you say do it yourself, are you like, you're going to go on the mountain by yourself, or, I mean, are you?
Either or. You know, I'm not opposed to. I just don't. I've killed a lion in Idaho with a trad bow over hounds with an outfitter, Leon Brown. He's a friend of mine.
Yeah.
Leon and Molly Brown, Clark Ford outfitters up there, and that was awesome. But I would like to do it all by myself, but I probably won't. But I think it would be like. I would just like to have a dog in the hunt.
I gotcha.
You know
that
what I
makes
mean?
sense. Yeah.
And it just not be just have a dog in the hunt.
I get it.
Know the ground. Like I want to me, as much as I've traveled and hunted, and as much as I love local hunting like you do, buddy. I mean, I would have probably said the same thing as you. Like, I just want to hunt right here at home.
Right.
Like, I think there's a ton of value in local hunting, and people kind of romanticize traveling and hunting. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I like the idea, and like in Montana, I've been up to Montana 4 times now on do-it-yourself hunts, taking my mules, and that's not with dogs. But I'm starting to find a real connection to that land, just from being there, spending time there, and I've found that's what I value in hunting. It's not killing the animal; it's learning that. Like, I feel really uncomfortable right now that I don't know 80% of the tree species that I can see right now. I really do. Like, that bothers me.
Right.
So, just as you.
So you just want a dog there. So you just
want
you want a dog to contribute.
I do.
And
I do.
that
would be valuable to me.
That would, I mean,
There's good opportunity for that, though. I mean, between Idaho, Arizona is a good for non-resident.
Yep.
Nevada, like if I can get the time off work, I'm looking. I'm wanting to go to
They'll
Nevada
let you.
early this
Let's
year.
work out the
or
deal
next
now.
year.
Do you mind if he leaves for about 3 weeks, 4 weeks?
Not during bobcat season.
Right.
like, there's a couple months there, like June, July.
Off season.
Yeah. There's no season I'm competing with.
There's a lot of good out-of-state opportunities still.
Yeah.
Like we're really looking at Nevada. My buddy Brandon and I, and I'm kind of like you. I just want to have a dog do something.
Yeah.
You know, I don't mind going with
Man,
Buddy.
for people who, and there's a lot of people that listen to this podcast that don't have hounds, there is something beyond magical about having a dog in the hunt. I mean, really, I think it goes back to our very origins as humans. I mean, for sure. Like, undoubtedly, we survived as a species because of our connection to dogs. And that is still very much alive. Fire. The reason that when we see a campfire light up, even if it's not cold, and we want to walk over there and just look at it, it's a adaptive trait. I mean, we survived because of our ability to manipulate fire. We're drawn to it. It's not. It doesn't make sense. It's not rational or logical.
It's ingrained.
It's like a dog. Dog, fire, clear water. Like, there's just like, yeah. So it's cool.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a dog connection is like pretty intense for a lot of people. You know, you see somebody maybe don't like a dog or whatever, but I know for
we
us,
don't like those people.
Yeah, we don't trust those people.
Don't trust them if they
We're
don't
not
like
going to be
dogs.
friends.
They're down in Portland right now rioting.
Yeah. Well, you see it in the pet world. I mean, even people that don't have hunting dogs, like the way people treat their pets is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then to me, you take that a similar, well, in the same strain of value in this animal, and then you turn it into a utility, you know, an animal that has utility that you're hunting with, and I think you've got something even kind of more incredible and even more pure. I don't think it's supernatural or super healthy for people to treat. I mean, I'm all for treating animals very well and having pets and liking them.
No
but
fur babies.
Some of the stuff that we're seeing is like beyond bizarre. But
the pet clothing market. When my wife was managing the vet clinic, I mean, it is insane the amount of money that goes into just pet clothing. You know, like it blows my mind.
We should do a W.
If we want to get into the pet market, man.
Don't do it.
I'm not afraid of failure, man.
take a chance.
Yeah.
You might lose it all.
It's crazy.
Well, guys, thanks so much. Thanks for your hospitality here. So what we're doing, and hopefully you'll hear about this on a later podcast, but Colby and I are about to trek off into the backcountry on a
Kill a bear
hunt
tonight.
Yeah. And so we're, Buddy and Jason are kind of showing us around a little bit up here. And beautiful country, big country, lots of bears, but it's very, very dense cover, so it's hard to find them. And that's what we're trying to figure out is where to find them. But we're gonna get back in and do some hunting.
Find the berries.
You kind of turning me on to bear hunting a little bit. I haven't had my truck in the woods without a dog box in it in a while. So.
Yeah.
See, in my organ openers today, so as soon as we're done here, I'm trucking home.
Yeah.
Well,
Then the hunt is on.
No, yeah.
Well, Buddy, any closing thoughts you'd like to say to the Bear Hunting Magazine podcast listeners?
no.
You're done?
I'm good. I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. I try not to talk too much. I am impressed. Like, this is probably because me and Jason have been trying to our podcast, and you're making us look like a rookie. I mean, like you're. This is like master. You're talking about Jedi Jason about there. You're like this is like
King.
Jedi Clay Newcomb. That I'm just wowed, and my brain is just like racking on how well you do a podcast. So it's
I appreciate it.
impressive to see
flattering.
it in person. I've heard you and I've listened to you. Like back you were talking about 2013, when you first got bear hunting, and we worked together for a little bit. We met at West Michigan, I think, and we had to. I wasn't able to sponsor you and continue to sponsor you, but you have really like grown as far as what I've watched and seen, and it's impressive. And so, seeing you in person, I'm glad you came out, and like it's my wheels are spinning.
Well, I appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
Appreciate it. Yeah. Pleasure to meet you, Jason. It's the first time we've
Same
met.
to you. Yeah.
Well, yesterday.
We chatted a little bit.
Yeah,
But no, it's
that's
a
right.
pleasure.
That's right. All right, well, Colby, we better go kill a bear. Closing thoughts, Colby.
Let's kill a bear.
Kill a bear.
That's all it's on the brain.
All right, me too.
Yeah.
Well, keep the wild places wild, because that's where the bears live.
Hey guys, turkey season is in full swing right now, and if you are planning on getting after it, make sure to pick up some Meat Eater Phelps turkey calls to stuff into the old turkey vest or into your fanny pack right now. I carry a few different things. I like to use mouth calls, and I like to use pot calls. Mouth calls or diaphragms, I like them because it gives you hand-free calling, meaning when you're working a bird up close, you can have your gun on your knee, finger on the trigger, ready to roll, and still be making turkey sounds. I like pot calls. I just like pot calls. I enjoy calling with a pot call. Whatever direction you go, including a box call, which I don't personally use too much, but they're fun and great, and I started out with them. Yanni, on the other hand, one of my main turkey hunting buddies, he loves box calls. And what's funny is I'll now and then look to him and give him the look that means get out your box call and find us a turkey. So it's not that I don't like them. I just have Yanni use his. Then I don't have to carry it. Go to Phelps Game Calls. Get calls that are made in the USA and get calls that'll get them close. Find yours at phelpsgamecalls.com today.